Mr. President, Ray McGovern is here to brief you.
More bad news. Take it, Ray.
Well, Mr. President, there's a lot of news, good and bad. Let's start with what just happened at the UN. The UN Security Council has just actually voted by consensus, to condemn any attempt to inflict damage on UNIFIL, the UN interim force in Lebanon. Okay, it's been there decades, but they're the ones that are supposed to calm things down and interpose themselves between Hezbollah and Israel. As you probably know, Netanyahu just a couple days ago came out really strong, telling the UN Secretary General Guterres, look, remove those UNIFIL people. We don't want any peacekeepers there for their own good. Keep them out of harm. Get rid of them. Remove them. Whoa.
You know, he is so. I'll tell you, I know all that, Ray, but I mean, the damn guy, he's in another country. He's now, he can't even claim he's doing this in Gaza or the West Bank, which for some reason he claims is his country, although we still, I don't know if it's a fiction or reality, hold to, that there's supposed to be a two-state solution. But at least with Gaza, he claims Hamas, the whole thing. But how the hell does he say that we can agree to getting the UN out of Lebanon? I
Well,
mean, he could then go into any country he wants to. What if he goes into Egypt? Get out, get rid of. I mean, is he losing his mind? I don't know, Ray. You know him.
it's,
You
it's, a,
you talk to him.
it's a combination of arrogance and hubris and the lack of accountability to anyone. I noticed he did the same thing today, just about at the time when the U.S. decided to permit the vote on consensus. Now, the U.S. Would have vetoed such a vote, one would think. So here is Netanyahu saying, look, you better get out. And the U.S. saying, well, we can vote with this consensus, but it's really up to Guterres now. If he withdraws these troops, well, the UN will suffer a really, really black eye and probably not recover in any peacekeeping operation. If he doesn't, if Netanyahu goes after these folks again, well, the EU and the UN Security Council folks today were talking about war crimes. This is a war crime. Okay, you don't do this. So one slight hope here.
You think Netanyahu cares about whether people say he's committing war crimes? He thinks it raises his ratings.
You're right.
He thinks he's looking tough and strong, and this goddamn cowboy, that guy. I don't know what he is.
Yes, we agree,
Yeah.
Mr. President. But the IDF, the Israeli so-called defense forces, have to care because they would be the ones brought before the Hague as war criminals. So there's a slim hope that the Israeli defense forces will say, this is not really a good idea. We don't want to shoot up peacekeepers under the UN. Actually, UN peacekeepers do have the authority to shoot back. We're going to get involved in a shootout with them. Let's not do this, Mr. Netanyahu. The other thing, of course, Mr. President, is I don't know of anything that your administration has said about this arrogant, hubristic demand. I do know that we acquiesced in a consensus vote at the UN, but as long as Netanyahu thinks he's got carte blanche from you and from the administration, from people like Blinken, he's going to act this way. So it's going to be next day or two to see if Netanyahu bows to Guterres or Guterres bows to Netanyahu. The UN is in for a really black eye if Guterres retreats on this. And Netanyahu, I think he can survive if he decides, well, maybe the IDF, maybe it's more sensible not to go shooting up UN personnel. That's one thing that's on the agenda. I want to let you know, the vote just happened 1 hour ago, and it would happen just at the same time as Netanyahu made the same threat for the second time. So it's up for grabs, and as I have been mentioning to you before, there are a day or two, it seems to me, for the U.S. to weigh in whether we think it's a good idea or not for UN peacekeepers to be attacked by Israeli defense forces. I'd like to move on now, Mr. President, if that's okay.
Before you drop that, though, the whole deal is this election. And
Sure.
if it starts getting even messier now with Lebanon and everything, that might blow it with Michigan, with the swing vote there, the state. So many people. I forget the numbers. Somebody briefed me on that. Who they abstained. It was a big vote, and people tell me that could really, really hurt Kamala there and all that. We want to keep a lid on this thing. We can't get them Netanyahu to go for any kind of ceasefire with Gaza or anything. He just won't listen. And I can't come down hard on him because then Trump will say I betrayed Israel. I've given Israel everything they want. Everything, everything, everything. I don't know. You can't win with those people. I don't get it.
Well, Mr. President, in the good news department, and this may be a little stretch, but I think it's real. The Russians are doing all they can to restrain the Iranians from rising to the bait if Israel retaliates for those October 1 attacks. The evidence is subtle, but in my view, very clear. Last Friday, Pezeshkian, the new president of Iran, went to Turkmenistan, where Putin was attending a smaller meeting than the BRICS, a Central Asian meeting. He met with Putin. It was very cordial, but the outcome was Putin didn't give any outcome. No end of meeting briefing, as he almost always does. What happens? Well, Pezeshkian goes back to Tehran and he says, I really hope that the treaty that we have worked on so hard for the last 2 years, that it will be finally signed at the BRICS meeting. BRICS meeting starts on the 22nd, exactly a week from now, okay? Well, what's my point? That was a done deal. Everyone knew in quotes, that would be signed at the BRICS meeting, but the Russians are dragging their feet. Why? Because they want to restrain the Iranians. They don't want to give the Iranians the idea that they are in with both feet if Iran gets involved in a regional war. And so they're holding out this bait of what amounts to a mutual defense treaty. They don't call it that. They don't want to be put in a position of having to support a country like Iran who's going full bore against Israel and, even worse, the United States if it comes to that. So here's a little bit about the outcome here. It was at Ashgabat in Turkmenistan, and let's see here. Yeah, after it, Pezeshkian said, I wish that the Russians would act more effectively in relation to the crimes done by the so-called Zionist regime. Right after that, Lavrov's first deputy, so Ryabkov is his name, he made a big speech, and I'm going to just quote 4 sentences from it. He said, "We're closely and anxiously following the events in the Israel-Iran standoff. The risk of a large-scale conflict is indeed high. The tendency to escalate into a full-scale conflict is a real danger. We call on all parties to exercise restraint. We are in intensive dialogue with the countries in the region. And once again, major war must be avoided, but everyone must show restraint." Now, reading between the lines, or just reading the lines of that, this includes Iran, all right? Iran has to exercise restraint. We have a week before the BRICS meeting. If Iran exercises restraint during this week, I think they got a signature on this Russian-Iranian treaty, which would be a big deal. If not, I think the Russians will still hold back because this is the only leverage they have. When I said it was good news, well, I think you'll agree that if the Iranians can be restrained in retaliating for Israel's retaliation, and if Israel's retaliation can be kept less than full bore, like attacking nuclear sites or attacking oil and gas facilities, then we have the prospect of a more peaceful resolution to this thing rather than Israel going full bore, getting Iran to retaliate, and then getting us in automatically. Because once again, you know better than I, the election is 3 weeks from tomorrow, and that's what the Netanyahu is calculating. If he doesn't hear any word from you, he's going to go. He's going to go and do what he wants, and what the Russians are trying to say. If that happens, please, for God's sake, don't get involved in a regional war because we don't want it. And there are major folks in the militaries in Israel as well as the United States that don't want a regional war. This is a big deal. I would have thought that the Russians might have let themselves be mousetrapped into a bilateral defense treaty with Iran just to show they mean business, but they're much more cautious than that. And they're holding the strings here and they're saying, Pizashyan, look, behave yourself, act with restraint. And Yapkov's words here could not be clearer. So that's new on the front of Iran and Russia. And Russia does have a good deal of restraint power. They have actually.
Yeah, but who's going to restrain Israel?
Well, that's the point. Okay,
They got those missiles, drones, and everything. And look, Ray, you may not have ever done it because you're on the analyst side of the CIA. But you guys over there know about overthrowing governments. You know what gets into people's heads. You've been the major overthrower of governments since you guys have been around after the big war. And Netanyahu's there now. He thinks we have to, and he's right. He's got us. He's got us. What they used to say about his short hairs. He's got us. He knows 3 weeks before before this election, and Trump's coming up in the polls. It's now neck and neck. The Harris honeymoon is over. I told them not to get rid of me, but they did. And now, it's looking really close, and Netanyahu's playing that like a fiddle. He knows. He knows. He knows more about American politics. That's what he's good at. He knows how to hustle us. And I can't undermine, I keep telling you that all the time, I can't undermine Kamala Harris, because we got to hold on to power here. Where that guy, he gets back in, we'll all be heading to jail. And I told him in justice, don't go after him so hard. Now we got all these felony charges. How many felony charges is he going to bring against me? You got to worry about that. We lose this election, oh man, Trump's going to go crazy.
Well, Mr. President, in that context,
I know you don't like to talk about that, but
well, no,
maybe you guys try to pull a coup or something in the United States. You may have to do it. If Trump gets in there, he's going to be out of control. You guys aren't going to like that. You like everything buttoned down. Like your button down collars and all that.
Well, Mr. President, I do want to put this in that same political context. And it's a simple question. I don't know the answer to it, but if there's a regional war in the Middle East, and I grant you that Netanyahu can probably cause that within the next 3 weeks, I don't know whether that would be good or whether that would be bad for Vice President Harris. I suspect it would not be good. If I'm right about that, then I would think that
Well, if I were the candidate, see, that's where they screwed up. As the incumbent, experienced, and then if we had a war, well, I don't like war, but that would have benefited us. But will people trust Harris Kamala to be the commander in chief, And then Trump's going to go wild on that because he could claim he was already in there. He's a tough guy, whatever. He's not. He's a lunatic. But, you see what I'm saying? She's in a bad spot now if there's
Well,
war, and she's pretty macho and all that, but still, you know, there's war. She's going to have to be, got to be the winner. She's got to have to say, we're going to kill, kill, kill.
well, that may be, Mr. President, but she's going to have to come up with some interesting reflections on what happens if a war starts in the Middle East. And the question is, the Russians are trying their best to restrain the Iranians. That's pretty clear. Uh,
I
I
don't know what happened here. The lights went out here. Is that, you see me all right, Ray?
I see you. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
lights. What the hell? Where's that intern?
You have kind of. Let's see. Where were we, Max? Do you remember?
Well, Ray, I can tell you where we were.
Okay.
What's going on here, Ray, is we're 3 weeks away from election, and this damn situation is exploding all over the place, and Netanyahu's loving it. BB. He knows how to do this. The guy was in America. He wasn't even in Israel when he was right. He was in school here, and he knows America. He knows the whole scene, right? And he knows this election coming up. He's got, Trump is secretly rooting for him, right? And he's going to blast us if we don't do what he wants. And I don't even know what he thinks he wants us to do. What are we supposed to do? Go blow up Iran and everything? And he always thinks he's going to win, but they got a pretty big army there, right? And they're a big country. Isn't that what you say
You
all the
mean
time?
Iran?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not going to win against Iran. They may give them a bloody eye, but they're not going to win. And actually, they're not going to make much progress in terms of offensive warfare without the participation of the U.S. forces. So you have a lot, and
On that, Ray, by the way, I want to say my hat's off to you. I don't always say nice things to you, but then you are the one who warned about Ukraine. Because all the guys around here, they thought, it was lights out for the Russians, and now that's going on forever. Another one of them forever wars, and then Trump, he's turning that to his advantage. I thought we were going to have him pictured as a Putin agent, betraying America, commie, and all that. But now it looks like a stalemate, and he says he could fix it in 3 days or 4 days or whatever the hell that is. And it sure the hell is not looking good. And I don't know, Netanyahu, I mean, he thinks he can win everything, but this ain't been a 6 day war. It's been going on for a year now. And, he still hasn't beaten Hamas. How is he going to knock out the Hezbollah and all that? And then Iran. Man, Iran, they're the ones who beat Iraq in their big war, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well,
I don't know. You
well
talk to their intelligence people, do they notice?
uh, their intelligence people, you mean Mossad and those folks?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course, we're in close contact with them. Mostly the operational people do that because they're
Can't you
mostly.
tell them to knock it off and give us some kind of ceasefire for 3 weeks?
That's
And
gonna
then you
not
can
going to
go
work,
back to shooting everything up. At least give us that, get us through the election.
Mr. President. I hate to
You
sound.
do a lot of good for Kamala. If you got any of those folks that as long as they can't blame it on me, but you got any way of communicating them, if they want to know how to make us happy, and so when we win this thing, we got to make nice with them. You let them know this next 3 weeks is they're killing us.
Okay, now, Mr. President, here's a suggestion. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but only you personally or you by delegation can make an impression upon Netanyahu. How would this be? You have Secretary Austin, who's in close touch with Defense Minister Belousov in Moscow. Okay, Belousov knows what Putin and the Iranians are trying to do. Okay, maybe you could use this channel and ask Austin to find out what the Russians are trying to do with respect to Iran. Are they indeed trying to restrain them? And then if he gets that word correct, then Austin calls his opposite number in Israel and says, I am talking on behalf of the President of the United States, President Biden. doesn't want escalation here, especially in the next 3 weeks. So knock it off. You will not have full fledged U.S. support if you try something stupid. That's all that has to happen. But it has to happen in your name. And Austin, curiously, has the kind of contacts now, not only with Belarus, but with the Israeli military, who are less than enthusiastic about shooting up UN peacekeeping people or even going into a regional war. So that's the card you have to play, Mr. President. If you don't want to do it yourself, and I hate to sound like a broken record here, get somebody else to do it. Speaking in your name, maybe, just maybe, Netanyahu would take that seriously.
Yeah. Most likely he gets turned to Trump or an Edelman woman or something and say that I'm betraying Israel and give him some new ammunition. You know, it's a sticky wicket there, or whatever.
I'd like to move
All
on to
right.
something else, Mr. President, if we're finished with this particular aspect. The, the Chinese. The,
Oh boy.
the Chinese are raising hell in and around the strait, the Taiwan Strait, and around the periphery of
Well,
Taiwan.
what the hell is that about? They got the place circled now. What are
Yeah,
they, right? They're circling
yeah,
Taiwan and everything. How the hell are they doing that? I thought we had it, we knocked them out because we had the Japanese, didn't they? And who else? Philippines, somebody, Korea, South
yeah.
Korea. They went there in the straits, and we gave them a big fu. You know, we can do that.
Well,
And
actually,
now what? They got ships. Where did they get all these damn ships?
well, they have them. They're building them at about 5 times the rate that we're building warships. What they have here is a response to some ill thought remarks by the new Taiwanese president, who said, "You know, we're not part of China. We're going to be independent." Well, that's waving a red flag at China, and so they responded within a day. This is quite quickly, and they surrounded the island with sort of Coast Guard little groups, 7 of them, and then they went through the Taiwan Strait. I think they're finished today, but the whole idea was, look, don't even think of of trying to be independent. We're not going to allow it. The deal was 52 years ago, one China. We're sticking by that. You need to stick by it too. Okay. Now, what's the ancillary? What's the secondary lesson here? China is flexing its muscles. It's saying, look, there are lots of troubles in Ukraine. There are even more troubles in West Asia. We got troubles for you in East Asia, okay? In the South China Sea. We have more ships now than you do. Don't even try to think about a war or a battle, because do you want a 2-front or a 3-front war? South Asia Sea, West Asia, Ukraine. I
Well,
don't
you
think
know,
you
Ray,
want.
I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, and I've got to kind of wrap this up there, but I still don't get it. How the hell is Taiwan? They run the plants there that are assembling Apple iPhones and everything. They're run by a Taiwan, right? Foxconn or something, and then they do business all the time with Taiwan. You know, back and forth. And you got the old Shanghai Shek Party, the Kuomintang, whatever. You know, they now control the parliament. They don't control the executive branch, but they're still a big force, and they want to go back to China. They don't want to be. I mean, they believe in one China policy. You know, they just want to be the government, but they never accepted Taiwan. And so what the heck is going on here? And you know, I think we used to have a good issue here because you had Hong Kong, and they were cracking down on Hong Kong, and so okay, Taiwan they don't want to go that way, but now Hong Kong is booming kind of. You know, they're getting a lot of tourism and a lot of money from the mainland, and people going back and forth, and they don't even have visas anymore. I had a briefing on that. I told Kamala you can't use Hong Kong now because this seems to be those days with students and everything complaining. That's over now. They all seem to be getting along. there, and so that becomes like a model for Taiwan, right? That they could get reintegrated back there and all that. So that issue, I thought that issue was winding down, or but no, they're
Yeah.
what is this guy in Taiwan? He wants trouble. I don't know.
Well,
Everybody wants trouble because
he,
they think we're going to bail them out. Everybody.
that's right.
That's
Well,
one
he's
thing I
playing.
learned on this job. One thing, we got no friends. They always want to take advantage of us. They want to get us into deep trouble, and then everything. It's just, sometimes, Ray, just between us, I'm not too upset about leaving this place. You
I,
know,
I can
it's really,
imagine that. Yeah.
it's really screwed up, man. It's screwed up. The hell,
Well,
nobody knows what they want. What do they want? Wars or shit like that? I don't know.
well, some people do, Mr. President. Some people are quite close to you. The Chinese, my people tell me, do not want a war. Uh, they haven't been in a war since a little dust up with North Vietnam back in the 70s. I mean, that's 3 millennia, no war. They want to be left alone, and they don't want to start a battle to reacquire Taiwan. They're patient, they'll wait, they'll wait, they'll wait. The people that are forcing the issue, the people who want to sell arms to Taiwan, want to encourage them to try to get independent and all that kind of stuff. So my point here is that everyone, your people as well as Trump yesterday said it's inevitable. The Chinese are going to attack Taiwan. They're going to attack Taiwan and try to take it over. Well, that's hogwash, Mr. President. But it's not unique to Trump. A lot of people in your administration are saying the same thing. Why? Well, I guess they want to build more ships and feed the arms people who create the kinds of arms that will be necessary to challenge China. The Chinese have an attitude, okay, and the attitude is, why can't we just get along? How about a win-win? And so, when you, Mr. President, said in your first major speech about China, China aspires to be a world-class power, including a military power. That's not going to happen on my watch. The Chinese reaction was, why not? I mean, if you thought we were going to invade you or something, well, that would be, why not? So that's the idea that we have with respect to China. Your State Department and some of your other advisors don't look at it that way, but we see that not only as very important, but in the context of the fact that Russia and China are now joined at the hip, as I've mentioned before. There have been two recent manifestations of this, one by the spokesperson for the foreign ministry, Maria Zakharova. And she said, the U.S. is talking about double containment. Well, we have this notion of double reaction, double reaction to double containment. In other words, trouble in Europe, trouble in Asia, it's going to happen that they will be together. And Putin himself, this is even more important, in a speech, let's see, it was I have it here. It was on September 2nd. So just
Ray, you got to go to get one of your nephews or something, give you one of them PowerPoints. Then
yeah, I
you wouldn't
should.
be losing all that. You got to get with the modern, what are modern things there. You get the charts. It goes very fast, but
Well, I'll take that under advisement.
I don't know what the hell's going on. You got this situation now, those EVs, and we're blocking them. Suddenly, we don't. It's one thing to tell the Chinese you don't want them building all these warships. It's another to tell them you can't build cars. I know we got the unions, we got the jobs and everything, but and then you got Mercedes and the only companies there that seem to make anything in Europe. Volkswagen and everything. They want to sell to China,
Yeah.
and now China's they're going to increase tariffs. Well, I don't know. It's a whole nother subject. That's not our business, but it is our business because we don't want them here. But you tell me, Ray, why the hell can't we make EVs? I mean, what the hell's going on here? What's going on? Well, it's another subject.
Yeah,
Maybe I gotta talk. Anyway, it's not my problem anymore.
well,
I'm out of
the
here soon. I'm out of here soon. And
yeah,
anyway, I'm tired. I gotta go take a nap, Ray. I'm
well,
just
just let me finish by pointing out
all right.
that
Finished, but
Putin.
I really gotta have a nap.
I
It's
should have had
pretty.
a I should have had a
You
power.
came in the afternoon. What happened? You were making another war or doing so? All right. Go ahead. What's up? What's your last deal?
I just want to note, Mr. President, once again, tectonic shifts in great power relationships bear repeating. And what Putin said on September 2nd, I'll put it in a PowerPoint for next time. He said the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation are allies in every sense of the word, period, end quote. Now, the Chinese are chary of saying explicitly that. So I talked to some of my Chinese analyst friends. They said, "Oh no, the Chinese wouldn't say that." I said, "Will the Chinese act as allies if Russia were threatened?" Oh, of course they'd act, but they wouldn't say. So Chinese rhetoric aside, the Chinese are in there full bore. Um, the Chinese analysts tell me, and I'll finish with this: China will never do anything that isn't in China's national interest. Well, all right. Uh, defeating defeating any attempt by the United States to defeat Russia, isn't that in China's interest? China knows from reading U.S. Pentagon
Yeah. Well,
documents that they're number one.
what's so damn stupid. I wasn't in favor of this. What you want China to do is to be making cars and solar panels. I don't know how the hell, and now what are we saying? That we want them to become a even bigger military power and everything, and uh, and then when you cut them off from the European market, well, yeah, they're going to be open to Russia and everybody else who wants to do business with them. I mean, they're gonna, and the Chinese, what are they doing? I saw a thing where they're making now uh, these gadgets that the Israelis got to blow up. Now, so the Lebanon's turning to China to make their electronics. How the hell do we get a situation where people think the Chinese are more reliable to produce safe products that are not going to blow up and kill people than Western companies? I don't know. It's all a sick thing. I'm telling you, I don't envy Kamala, man. I'll tell you, this world is pretty damn screwed up, and I'll have you arrested if you say anything to anybody. But uh, I may be getting out just in time. I
Yeah,
mean, really, really, it. And then now the dollar, everybody's questioning whether when they take away the dollar supremacy, well, what the hell do we make except dollars? I mean, right? We don't make cars anybody wants, and we're screwing up in all these different areas, and then you take the dollar. I mean, getting rid of the gold standard, that's when them crazy Republicans, some of them, they're right though. You getting rid of the gold standard, yeah, and then you got this dollar, and it's not backed by anything, and now China and everybody, I'm seeing these figures, so much of this trade now is going off to other people's currency. Oh, I don't want to be president if that ever happens.
well, Mr.
You
President,
don't know anything about. I know. I got to get a briefing. Uh, Yellen, she tells me all. Everything's honky dory, but I don't believe it for a minute.
yeah,
Yeah.
I put Yellen in the same category as Blinken. Let me just say, Mr. President, in a broader sense, that all these economic and financial and strategic and military problems come down to one thing, and that is that there could be no national security for any big country without mutual security for other big countries. That was the message of John Kennedy in that wonderful American University speech, okay? No security for any one country without mutual security for others. And so, in some sense, Mr. President, you could say that the golden rule, do unto others as others do unto you. That's not just a rule, a nice ethical rule anymore. That's a existential necessity, an existential requirement. Because if we don't treat people the way we want to be treated, then they're going to become enemies. And we used to be called comrades or friends or colleagues by the Russians. No longer.
Yeah, I don't know about this existential stuff and all this philosophy, though. But let me tell you something, Ray, because you've been doing this for 27 years now. It's time you retire, Ray. But or did you retire? I never can keep it straight. I remember I had to give a special order to have you come in here to yap at me because I know you know a lot, But it's where I'm thinking now, Ray. I'm thinking, how many felonies do we hang on Trump? And now there's even war crime stuff, international war crime trial, and everything. And am I going to have a miserable retirement? Am I going to be, if this guy Trump gets in, yeah, I mean, Kamala gets in, it's manageable, but he gets in there, what's he going to do? He's going to stick those felonies on me. I'm going to hear about Burisma, whatever the hell that company is, and Hunter's whole dealings and all this crap, and then they're going to stick some war crimes on me or whatever. Genocide, what the hell is that? Genocide, nobody knows what it is and everything. But, Ray, just if you can believe it, I'm president and you're with the spooks, but just man to man, is this guy going to be able to come after me on all this war crime stuff or corruption or Ukraine and all that?
Well, Mr. President, he thinks he has the book not only on you and your son, but on people like the FBI director and the CIA director and the people at the top of the Justice Department that did all they could to sabotage him for those 4 years. So I don't know what he's going to do. What I do know is that he's making a big impact by pretending to be able to end the war in Ukraine. Now, whether it's realistic or not, he's made himself into the end the war president. And
it was like Nixon on Vietnam, right?
Yeah,
Remember
right. And they
Nixon
won.
ran like he was a goddamn peacenik or Gandhi or something.
Didn't have to be true, right? Okay, so the other thing is, if war blows up in the Middle East, okay, he's on record as saying, that never would have happened, never would have happened, never would have happened if I were president, okay? A lot of people believe that stuff, okay? So, in my view, the way to prevent that latter, which is possible for you to prevent, is for you not to give up, but to say, there are 3 weeks left. I'm going to make sure that I do everything I can through whatever intermediary to tell Netanyahu, we will not support a wider war. That will speak truth to him. He may not believe you, but then we don't have to do it if he starts a regional war. So that's my parting shot on that.
Yeah, my parting shot to you, and this is what you guys do with all your damn dirty tricks and everything. I say get the word like that to Netanyahu, be back to Trump, circle around, and he'll destroy us. Oh, you betrayed Israel. We gave Israel every damn thing they wanted. We gave them a blank check. We give them all that money. We give Zelensky all that money and everything. They're all a bunch of ingrates. At the end of the day, they'll kiss Trump's ass and whatever, and he'll look like some big hero to them. I don't know. All right, enough. That's it. You make my life miserable, but you know what? I hate to say it, Ray. You're probably right. It's pretty screwed up. Yeah. Shoot the messenger. I wish I could do that, but I can't. So see you next week, okay?
Thanks very much.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Mr. President.